Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay, let's go. Lancaster bomber. My name's Connor, if you're new. Hi, guys. The original link to the video, top of the description. Below that, link to the Discord. Let's go.
1939 to 1941, some statistics say that only 1 in 10 RAF bombers in Bomber Command was getting to within 5 miles of its target. Those early aeroplanes, twin-engined aeroplanes such as the Wellington, the Blenheim, the Handley Page Hampden and the Whitley, very brave guys going around in quite antiquated aeroplanes. An Avro Manchester with a full crew of 7 guys usually was struggling to get up to 10,000 feet and 200 miles an hour, and also struggling to get off the ground with a full bomb load sometimes. Avro, the company that made the Manchester, went back to the drawing board with a designer, a gentleman called Roy Chadwick, and ended up with this, the Lancaster.
How cool does that look with all those like exhaust pipes on the side there?
Greatest and most powerful of the RAF's mighty fleet of bombers, Lancasters electrified the world with their spectacular debut in the epic daylight raid on Augsburg. Here was the machine that should bring to fruition Winston Churchill's promise that Germany would be subjected to an ordeal the like of which has never been experienced by any country.
Now, Mr. Chadwick basically went back to his drawing board with the Manchester and decided he could do a lot better. So he altered the wing spar, altered the tail slightly, and replaced the 2 inboard engines which were made by Rolls-Royce, but they were neither that reliable nor that powerful. They were called the Vulture. Mr. Chadwick got rid of the Rolls-Royce Vulture engines, replaced them with 4 tried, tested, very reliable 27-litre V12s.
It's crazy. It looks like the engines on the wings. It looks like the fronts of 4 Spitfires. Like one, 2, 3, 4 noses of a Spitfire. It looks crazy.
Called the Merlin. Very reliable 27-litre V12s. Called the Merlin.
Liquid-cooled Rolls-Royce Merlins, as good an aircraft engine as the world can produce.
With an extended wingspan of 102 feet, a wing spar to take the weight of the bomb load, and 4 very powerful engines, Mr. Chadwick ended up with an aeroplane with in excess of 5,500 horsepower, capable of carrying the heaviest bomb load in the European theatre of operation, up to 20,000+ feet, and 240 miles an hour.
What did you think of the Lancaster to fly after the Wellington?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. It's almost faultless, I think. It's just like an overgrown tiger moth almost, you know. Lovely aeroplane. More comfortable, it's warmer, more room in the cockpit, much more better equipment. Faster, of course.
We are now inside the Imperial War Museum's Canadian-built Lancaster KB889. So positions, you would have had stereotypically 7 men. 8 if there's an intelligence man on board. So from the top, you would have had on the right-hand side the flight engineer in charge of looking after the engines. To his left would have been the pilot. No co-pilot on a Lancaster. In the wartime, not like a B-17, you just had the pilot on the left and his flight engineer on the right. Down below and further forward, there would have been the bomb aimer, laid on his tummy and also doubling up as a front gunner. 2 303 machine guns in the front turret.
Oh, really? So I want to talk about that too, so I feel like I can pause.
B-17 further.
So I'm assuming, like, if the pilot, there's one pilot, is hit or killed or incapacitated, I'm assuming someone else, like the flight engineer, someone else is knowledgeable enough to kind of like bring it back. And then
there would have been the bomb aimer.
So the bomb aimer would be like on his stomach, just looking down through this thing.
Laid on his tummy and also doubling up as a front gunner. 2 303 machine guns in the front turret. Coming further back now, behind the pilot on the left, you would have had the navigator. Next to the navigator, the wireless operator for communications. Coming further back now and over the main wing spar, which is very difficult to get up and over. You have 3. The first one covering the controls, the secondary spar, and then the third one that you have to climb up, over and through to get over there. So coming back, the mid-upper turret gunner. On this particular turret, there are two 50 caliber machine guns. The turret is made by Martin in the United States, as opposed to the earlier Fraser-Nash ones with 303 British guns. Here, and behind the pilot's head, are the only pieces of armour plating on the entire aeroplane. That, for crew protection, is just about it. Down, all the way at the bottom there, the tail turret gunner. The loneliest and most vulnerable position of a Lancaster's crew. He didn't have anything to protect him except a little piece of perspex. And towards the end of the war, the piece of perspex in front of his turret was taken out to help his field of view. But 4 303 machine guns down there. But he could have been the eyes and the ears and the difference between life and death for his crew.
So you had to get up it and slide down the other side into the turret. It was actually a slide, and you had 2 hands on the top to help you. Get your feet in, get your bottom settled on a little tiny narrow seat, and then shut the door into the turret so you're completely enclosed. And that was it. You were stuck there until you got back.
Did that make you quite lonely?
Oh yeah, you were really lonely, stuck out the back there, yeah, that's right. You just had to keep watching out to make sure that you weren't attacked by fighters. But at night that was quite difficult because when it's dark, it is dark, you can't see a lot anyway. I know that my attitude was that being that it would be very difficult in the dark to recognise a plane, then you'd shoot first and ask questions afterwards.
The fuselage, the skin of the Lancaster. That is 0.7 of a millimetre thick. It would not stop a bullet of any calibre. The heavy machine guns from a Messerschmitt 109G or a Focke-Wulf 190 would go straight through here, straight through me, and straight through the other side of the aeroplane and continue on their way. And both of those aeroplanes I just mentioned were also armed with cannons, which would rip a Lancaster to pieces. The lights that you see in here are just so you can see me and inside our Lancaster. Can't have lights on at 20,000 feet over Berlin at midnight. It'd bring every night fighter for miles. Just one other thing, you have 4 27-litre supercharged V12 engines, 5,500 horsepower, and we're basically in a big tin can. So you have dark, deafening, freezing and lethal environment.
Okay, so extremely minimal stuff on this plane that goes around protection of the plane itself or the crew. All right, and there's a purpose for that. Obviously, probably making it lighter.
The wireless hop was in the middle of the wing, and that's where the heat came in. So I was nice and hot, in fact too hot, and everybody else was very cold. I don't remember the op, but we were hit by flak, and which made a very nice hole in the floor of the aircraft. Well, not a particularly big hole, but the slipstream came through. And it was the first time I'd been there with my feet frozen, literally ice, because the sweat in the flying boots froze up. The rest of me was hot from the heat coming in from the aircraft, and my knees were sort of in between the two.
So here we are underneath the cavernous bomb bay of a Lancaster.
Oh, he's just laughing.
This behind me here is a standard average of what a Lancaster would carry into battle every night. So we have...
Sorry, a man's man.
Underneath the cavernous bomb bay of a Lancaster. This behind me here is a standard average of what a Lancaster would carry into battle every night. So we have a 4,000-pound bomb called a Cookie, which is 4,000 pounds on its own. 2 1,000-pounders, 2 500-pounders, 2 250-pounders over here, and the horrible things in these wooden boxes here are called incendiaries. A stick about that long, about that wide, and they are horrible. The Germans dropped a couple of 100,000 of them on us, and we returned the offer with a couple of million on them. But a Lancaster, because of its design and its huge cavernous bomb bay, could be adapted to carry specific bombs to destroy a specific target. mentioning Barnes Wallis, an extremely clever engineer at Vickers. Now, he designed 3 specific bombs: Tall Boy, Upkeep, and Grand Slam. A Tall Boy bomb.
So, sorry, just
Upkeep.
So is this one of the Dambusters that, you know, skips across the water to avoid like the underwater nets that were there to prevent torpedoes being launched by airplane, and so they skipping rocks?
And Grand Slam. A Tall Boy bomb, 1 bomb. The nose of it would be pressed up against the bulkhead here, and the tail of it would be 2/3 of the way down the fuselage there, down the bomb bay. Now, a Tall Boy bomb could get through 10 feet of reinforced concrete. A Grand Slam bomb, like a Tall Boy, only bigger. A Grand Slam bomb's nose would be up here. The B Special Lancaster designed to carry it wouldn't have bomb doors like this one, because the tail of the bomb would be hanging out the other end of the bomb bay about 30 feet down there.
Guys, question. With a bomb as big as one of the, you know, the biggest bomb they showed there, which weighs such an incredible amount, does the pilot have to consciously kind of ascend when they're releasing the bomb, or no? Like that amount of weight being led away from the aircraft immediately must have some kind of like jolting effect on the aircraft, because suddenly it's, you know, thousands of pounds lighter in an instant. So I wonder if that was any trouble at all, or if they had to deal with that, or if it was just negligible.
Now, that bomb, dropped from height, would spiral on the way down because it had altered fins at the tail. Hitting supersonic speeds, that thing could get through 18 feet of steel-reinforced concrete. The third weapon that Mr. Wallis invented was very special indeed. That was codenamed Upkeep. Upkeep was the famous bouncing bomb. Germany was using hydroelectricity to power their steel mills in the wartime. Hydro, water. Millions and millions of gallons of it, all held in the Ruhr Valley in Germany. All that water was held back by 3 huge hydroelectric dams. The Mona Dam holds back 3 times the amount of water as the Great Hoover Dam in America. Now, Wallis realised that if you break the dams, not only will you cause widespread flooding in Nazi Germany, but if you take away the water, they can't make hydroelectricity. If they can't make hydroelectricity, they can't power the steel mills that make tanks, bullets, bombs and guns. But how do you break the dams in 1943? Mr. Wallis came up with this idea. An idea of a 4.5-ton backspinning mine full of Torpex explosive, thrown low and fast at the dam. To throw something that big at the dam, the only thing available that could carry and throw that thing was the Lancaster, with its 5,500 horsepower and its huge carrying ability. But of course, when you're flying very low and fast, you need a very special squadron. Bomber Harris, in charge of Bomber Command, picked a young, go-getting wing commander called Guy Gibson to form a secret squadron, called Squadron X at the time. Hand-picked pilots from all over Bomber Command. Mickey Martin, John Hopgood, Les Munro, Dinghy Young, all gathered at Scampton in Lincolnshire, and practice and practice and practice, down low, down to 60 feet. The raid itself came, and the intelligence report said that the Mona Dam was only lightly defended. That report was incorrect. The Mona Dam was very heavily defended. Gibson, leading by example, went in first into the Mona Dam. The flak was arcing towards Gibson's head, but he kept going faster and faster, up to 230 miles an hour at 60 feet. Eventually, bomb gone. It worked, skipping over the water at 230 miles an hour, but it fell short slightly of the dam.
You left your intercom on so that everybody in the plane could hear what was being said. You heard Gibson say, "I'm going in now," and you saw him dive down and run over the dam, and all the flak and the guns started firing at him, and he dropped his bomb. I don't know, well, nothing happened anyway. He just saw the big spout of water. When he got back, he said, "Come in number 2, you can go in now, and that was Mickey Martin. And while Martin was doing his run, Gibson flew alongside him to try and draw the flak.
The Morna Dam eventually fell, as did the Ida Dam. But that raid cost the lives of 53 young lads. But between 1939 and 1945, Bomber Command lost 55,573 fine young men. Our Lancaster, registration KB889, came to Duxford in the early 80s, I believe. KB889 was part of a training squadron. In late 1944, early 1945, a new crew got together and went on one training flight. KB889 was flying along, and the pilot managed to fly it into a cumulonimbus cloud, and the Lancaster was turned on its back. Obviously, Lancasters aren't made to do a barrel roll, and the mid-upper turret gunner, he was so scared he bailed out. But the pilot managed to get the aeroplane righted again and landed it safely. But of course, it had to be stress tested. And by the time all the rivets were stress tested and the airframe, the war was over.
How did he bail out?
So back it went to Canada, and it took part in quite a bit of coastal patrol over there and saved quite a few lives. So instead of killing lots of people, it saved quite a few. The war was over. So back it went to Canada, and it took part in quite a bit of coastal patrol over there and saved quite a few lives. So instead of killing lots of people, it saved quite a few.
Really good video. Anyone who likes, skipped rocks as a kid knows why you got to go down super low, because if you drop it at too high of a height, the arc is going to be too severe and it's not going to skip that far. So that makes sense. Good video, definitely. I'm not sure if I asked any big questions. If I did, I'd appreciate answers. You guys are great at that. Hope you guys are all doing well, and we'll keep learning. I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye guys.